What's up, guys? It's Juan. Life has been pretty busy. Me and Darshil are working full-time jobs at the moment, and also not just doing full-time jobs. But with that being said, also trying to train. Also got other things going on. But I won't go too deep into that. A lot of these upcoming podcasts are all archived podcasts from about at least 1 or 2 months ago. All of these are going to be pre-dunk camp. Not all of them. Most of them are going to be pre-dunk camp, and then we have, I think, about 1 or 2 after dunk camp. So then we'll post that. But then once those are posted, we'll be consistently doing podcasts again. So yeah, new podcasts coming out soon. Also new videos on my YouTube channel if you guys want to check that out. Will be coming soon. With that being said, shout out to Harish and Paco from the dunk community. They have been super helpful in this process. Definitely couldn't do it without them. So yeah, with that being said, enjoy the podcast. Peace. If you're a dunker and you know what Pearson's law is, you know that when performance is measured, your performance improves. And there's many ways to do that, and we'll talk about it in this podcast. What's up, y'all boys? Welcome back to Beyond Bounce. This is episode 14, I think. I might be wrong. I have no idea. But yeah, we're going to talk about rim heights and how you can use certain levels of, I guess you could say, like just heights or whatever, just to improve intensity and improve performance and improve your progress overall. So yeah, first thing we could talk about is low rimming. Me and Darshil have some experience with that. My low rimming experience is what I started off doing. I remember I got my first dunk on 9.6 when I first started. I think it was actually like 9.4 when I first started training for that. And I would just practice like windmills, things like that. What's your experience with that?
For me, because my reach is terrible, most of the low rim dunks that I have to do are basically on like I've done really low rim stuff, like we're talking 7.9 to like 8.3. I've done those, done trick dunks with them. That's where I fell in love with a lot of spin dunks and just spinning
Yeah.
in general. It's also where I learned how to do a lot of like basic dunks, windmills, um, two-handed tomahawks, and a lot of different transfer dunks that I made back in
Yeah.
the day.
And
But
especially, go ahead.
and then I tend to, for like actual like more intentful makes, I
Yeah.
tend to go somewhere between like 8.9 to 9.6, somewhere around that area, and just do sessions usually around that area
Yeah.
if I want to actually like get some higher intent makes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like 8'10" is such a good height. But lowering is especially good if you're younger. If you're younger, do it as much as you can, practice as much as you can because your outputs are not that high, and you'll be able to kind of repeatedly do that until you grow up, get stronger, and then your outputs are a lot higher, and your things might start to mess up. But yeah, and it's good for building confidence too, just because you're actually learning the movements. And like we talked about in one of our previous podcasts with Daniel Dacey, go check that out if you haven't. He practiced a lot of low rimming, and it actually transferred very well to his. It's just an example, but there's so many other people who have practiced low rimming, and it's transferred so well to actually dunking on a higher rim, anything like 9.9 and above. It transfers very well because you're practicing the exact movement on a height that you can do like in the moment. So say if you're dunking on 8'10" and you can get your head at the net and you can do certain dunks, then once you can get your head at the net on like 10 feet, then you've already practiced those same dunks with the same kind of jump height. The only difference is the jump height, getting used to being in the air that long. So yeah, that as well. You just become a better dunker in
I
general, pretty much.
I think actually it's like most recent experience that I've actually had that happen in the same session was actually yesterday, I think, when I was doing my session. I was basically mostly I was doing like 8.3 stuff and then mostly like 8.9, 8.10 stuff. But I was getting really accustomed to at least being able to do my off dribble technique as well as I mean, my jump technique wasn't great, but like my lobs are getting a lot better in terms of my placement for it to the point where when I moved it to like 9.4, I believe, took me like 1 or 2 tries, and I just freaking put it in, and I got it just
Yeah.
easily from that. And it's
No, your
like
lobs are definitely looking better.
it kind of speaks to the thing where like if you're going off of a higher rim, you're gonna be throwing the lob a lot higher to even be able to get it up there. But if you're thinking so much about that and not about the accuracy of it, which you're going to develop if you low rim, then you're always going to have an inaccurate lob if that's all you do, just basically practicing on higher rims. So if you have access to a lower rim, it is so important to have. Like, unless you want to talk
Especially if
about
you're a
it,
shorter guy.
yeah,
Especially if you're a shorter guy, like you need to know how to lob the ball if you're a shorter guy. Like 5'9" and below, you have to learn how to lob the ball to dunk because we naturally we're gonna need a lot more effort to dunk. We're gonna have to jump higher to dunk. So unless like because if someone like 6 foot or above, they don't need as much effort to get like a quick like two like if they can jump high enough obviously to get like a little quick two hander or one hander. That's us like for them doing like a easy one hander is like us trying to like grab halfway through the net. So naturally we're gonna have to need to use more intent for that. So that's why low rimming is beneficial, and it can also add a positive feedback loop to just you making things, being able to make things, and then going for new things, and then having a higher adrenaline for that after like making new dunks, better dunks. It's just good practice overall because what all that falls under is that it's fun. It's a fun thing to do. It's a fun activity to do. So it helps a
I
lot with
I
that.
feel like adding on to that, right? When you think about some of the best sessions that you have, right? The sessions inherently go off of the idea that you're building confidence through every jump that you're doing. So low rimming is literally can sometimes be that exact gateway to understanding where you are at in the session and just constantly improving as a result of it. When you're just
Mm,
using a higher rim, it is harder to build confidence unless you're at a point where fitness is shining beyond fatigue, which we could talk about that in a different podcast. But in terms of that general idea, when you're low rimming, you don't you don't have to necessarily jump as high, but you still need to jump decently high depending on what the rim height is. And if you can do makes on that, that's going to build more confidence, more consistency in what you're doing. And every rep that you're going to have is going to have more intent as a result of it. If you're going to let anxiety come in because you can't make a dunk because it's way too high for the rim height that you're currently practicing on, confidence is going to go down, anxiety is going to go up, performance is going to go down eventually as a result
yeah,
of that. Or worse, your technique also, or jump technique or dunk technique or both degrade as a result of it. So it's important. That's the
yeah,
key thing is it's important to low rim.
yeah. And it also comes with like the expectations. Basically, when you lower the rim, you can actually allow yourself to have those higher expectations for like going for like a one hander, like a two hander, or a windmill, whatever level you're at. Because then, if on a certain day you don't know if you're gonna have a good or bad day, let's say for example, and then you go to a 10 foot rim hoping to get a few dunks in, and it's a bad day. When you have the expectations higher for that, which we can move on to the topic of like going on higher rims when you had those expectations and you don't have a good day, then that's really gonna kind of put you in more of like a defeating feeling, and those emotions can come in, and then you're gonna like may or may not beat yourself up for it, depending on who you are as a person, obviously. But having those expectations on a bad day could also destroy that. So that's why for higher rims, especially if you're a shorter guy, um, it's more of a sparing use because um, it's really it's very beneficial to do it on because I did this a lot. I would just go on the higher rims because I'm like, oh, okay, I just want to get a dunk. I just want to get a dunk. When instead, it would have probably been better to stay home, go on the low rim, and actually be able to practice that. Because it's also a good thing for intent as well because a you're trying to reach a higher goal, just like with a vert trainer. If you're trying to test your vertical, your intent's going to be higher, like we talked about in the beginning with the Pearson's law. But the only problem with that is, like I said, if you're on a bad day and you, with the most intent possible, you can't, like, you can only, like, grab rim or something and you try to go for a dunk, it's not going to be a fun day. You're not going to make as much progress, or you're not going to perform as well, which is not going to lead to as much progress as if you would have made, as if you instead just went home, did a low rim session, and practice your dunks, worked on your dunks. You would have had more intent, things like that, better practice, all that stuff.
And I think it goes with what we were saying, like I typically, like, if it weren't for the fact that I was going to college, so I was kind of forced to do sessions sometimes at a higher rim, and I didn't really have a say on whether I could do a low rim or not. But the only times where I definitely know that I want to use a higher rim is when I think I have a chance to do something other than just a subpar day. And that just kind of goes with when just kind of understanding how much fatigue you have in relation to your fitness and which one is more prevalent in terms of your training at that point. And a lot of the times when you're training and when you're the thick of most like training cycles that are out there, you're going to be fatigued. You're not going to have great performance. So for that reason alone, that's why, as Juan said, you want to use higher rims sparingly if you can. We're not saying that, I mean, like the thing is that sometimes life circumstances might happen. You might have to use higher rims, but if you can, use a lower rim as much as you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, depending on whatever level you're at. Like if you're
Yeah, of course,
six
yeah.
foot, 6 foot low bounce, or 6 foot medium to high bounce, like because for a lower rim for them that might be like 9.7 to 9.9. For us, that's still more of like the higher side, depending on how much bounce you have, of course. Um, but even then, for like someone like me at my best, a 9.7 rim would be amazing. Would be so fun to use because I'd be able to get like a lot of one handers, maybe even possibly a two hander on that. So then that would be more beneficial. Or if I just want to go crazy, I can just go on a low rim. Um, and with that, we can transition into the topic of measuring rims and how, especially nowadays, and due to the fact that a lot of newer dunks are being hit, they need to be the height of the rims needs to be validated, because even like if you're in the dunk training space, and if you're not, this is something you should understand. An inch is a big difference on your vertical, right? And it's a good thing, because like one, yeah, especially if you're at a higher level, 1 inch improvement, that's huge, right? We love 1 inches, and especially if it's 2 3 inches, it's like it's a big it's a big difference, you know. But yeah, no, for real though, like it's actually a big difference. And when you're talking about dunking on a 9.9 rim and dunking on a 10 foot rim, those are two whole different beasts. So, if you want to kind of go into that topic and what we have to explain to the people.
So there's many ways that I can really go at this. For one, I kind of have had the opposite issue in terms of the fact that I've had less shorter rims that I've used. Sorry, let me go back on this. Besides the lower rim that I use, typically that I have right outside my house or used to be at my neighbor's house, right? Any indoor rim that I've used has mostly just been 10 feet or even above that. I've used rims that have gone up to freaking 10.2, and it sucks. But the thing is that it taught me that when I went to like a 9.9 rim in like 24-hour fitness, it is a huge difference in terms of the fact that I can just basically maybe do like a 2 or 3 step approach, and I'm easily touching rim for 9.9. Like it's not even something that I really need to try too much on. But then, and then even grabbing rim, I don't have to put like 100% of my effort in order to be able to do that for 9.9. Whereas for 10 feet, it's I have to freaking try in order to even get that,
Mm-hmm.
because like I basically need to get around like 35, 36, 37 inches, somewhere around there, just to be able to then touch and then grab rim, which is kind of rough for me because of my reach. But in my experience, it makes a hell of a difference in terms of 1 or 2 or even 3 inches. 10.2 feels terrible compared to 10 feet. Like there's the difference of just 2 inches is a lot in terms of what you're doing with that. And then speaking not just for myself now, right? Talking about even examples. When the bounce dunk I think was made by Miller Dunks, right? I think it was like he did it on like a 9-9 rim. If you tried doing that, or if someone else tried doing the bounce dunk on 10 feet, right, and had around the same bounce or same amount of like reach as Miller did, it's gonna be harder to make it on 10 feet because there's so many variables that the bounce dunk has, right? That those 3 inches might as well be the really important as well to consider as well. And then it's not just that as well. Like let's say, and we'll talk about this in another context as well. Isaiah Rivera's double East Bay, right? He made it on 9-8, but you could see on any videos where he tries to make it on like a higher rim, like even 9-11 or 10 feet, right? He might be getting like some of his hand above it, and potentially one day he probably will do the dunk, right? But it's different. That difference is huge in terms of him being able to make it. So yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it reminds me because that's also another thing. If you post your dunks, and especially if you're more popular in the space of the dunk community, there can there can be a possible controversy to if whatever height you dunked it on. Um, and that it reminds me of a time years ago when Isaiah first made his behind the back in between the legs dunk on about like 9-9,
who
and
mixtape, right?
yeah, maybe I don't know
I'm
who
pre-
it was. I remember.
I, I'm pretty sure I remember it was like who mixtape basically call him out that when because he had I think the story was that Isaiah did the was it behind the back beat between the legs, right, around that time a few years back.
Hmm.
And basically I forget the guy's actual name, but basically the guy who owns Hoop Mixtape decided to drive to that rim, measure the rim, and found out that it was in regulation. So as a result of that, right, Isaiah never put that the rim height was that, but he never put the rim height in at all
Yeah,
at that point, right?
because I think at the time it wasn't really as like like really kind of looked at. It's like people didn't care too much at that time because this was years ago. I feel like, but I'm not 100% sure. But
Yeah, yeah, I remember that story, and ever since Hoop Mixtape did say that, Isaiah has put every single rim height that he's worked on, but I feel like that was as much as that. I feel like just looking at it right now in hindsight, it's a little petty how he decided to actually just drive straight to that area to do that. But it was an important thing regardless because of the fact that it allowed all dunkers, pro, amateur, or not, or whatever, right, to be more valid with what they're doing with dunks. Especially when you're making newer dunks, or especially if you're having dunks that were never made previously, it's important to list the rim height
yeah, hundred
as,
percent, 100%.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, and especially it goes into like a bunch of the casuals too that aren't really part of the dunk community, and we'll see something like Isaiah's double between the legs. That was a huge feat. A huge feat. That's the highest rim that dunk has ever been hit on, and people will still hate in the comments, even after putting the rim height. So it goes to a certain extent where it's like you can't really worry about what other people think as long as you put the rim height and people know. And people even said like he was ruining dunking for that when that's literally like quite literally the opposite. Like he is a part of the transformation of the sport by doing that on a new height. When people years ago thought like maybe some people thought it was like possible, but then obviously years ago people wouldn't think that's possible. People would probably see something like that and think it's like witchcraft or something. So something like that, it's really a next step to building this community and maybe turning it into a sport as well, showing that we are some skilled individuals. Um, so yeah, we can go up to the next topic. Rims can have angles, upward or downward, and you talked about this too. Your 10-2 rims.
yeah. The
um,
the the thing is that that is important. Like in terms, like to a point, it's also important to have, but some people might put it a little bit out of proportion. So a lot of those things. The reason that the rims that I was using at least were 10.2 or sometimes or like higher than 10 wasn't because they were set at a rim height. It's because of the fact that the angle that they're set at is literally upturned to the point where
Mm,
even if you were to try to put any dunks in, that thing would not go in. Like I've seen people who are taller than me, right? It's like they're literally freaking like, yo, what the fuck is happening? Why isn't it going in? I literally have my hand over the rim. I freaking flicked this shit in, and it didn't go in at all.
wouldn't it?
And then
Wait, would it
if
have a?
it's
Oh no, 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 never mind, never mind, never mind. No, I
they'll
get it,
get
I get it, I
stuck.
get it.
They'll get stuffed a lot more if it's like upwards.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Okay,
then
wait. I imagine it would get stuffed more, but what about the back? Okay, I thought at first, I was thinking at first, like, oh wait, wouldn't there be less back rims if it's angled upwards? But I imagine there would be more because when it goes in, it would actually like it wouldn't have the space to kind of like hit it and then come down. Instead, it would be angled up, so then it would just kind of like hit out more. Or but it depends. I don't know. Well, no, that no, no. You would
a
just
lot
get
of the
back
time
rim more.
a lot of the times that I've seen people get rim stuff more than I think back rim when it's like that.
Yeah.
I think like but yeah
Oh
those
no,
kind of up
100% rim stuff. But then if they do get it through, I imagine it
yeah
would be a lot of back rims if they like try and dunk it too hard, at least for sure.
but it's like that those upward angles kind of like every time I've dunked on those it's been just a terrible session just to have like even if I've had lower rims too, right? I used to use a lower rim from that another neighbor of mine had. That thing was upwards. I tried doing like basic dunks on like an 8.7 rim, like not even like high rim at all, like just some windmills, maybe some 360s, right? I was getting
Hmm.
rim stuffed. It was embarrassing because it's just not a great time to have. But like on the flip side of things, right? Certain rims can also be downward angled, and unlike upward angled stuff, I mean technically you could have wear and tear as a result of leading to upward angled rims, but more so downward angled rims are typically due to wear and tear, and I've also had experiences with those as well. In terms of, I think there was a rim that at my old high school, right? At one point in time, it was like probably like around 911 or so. I tried measuring it. It was like 9.6, 9.7. That rim was like this,
Yeah, dude.
and it's like,
Wait,
and
angled downwards or upwards?
downwards.
Okay, damn.
Like the angle of a rim matters in terms of the height that you measure it at, but it also matters in terms of how easy it is to make certain things or how to do in how easy it is to do makes, depending on how you do it. You're not gonna get rim stuff for sure. You might back rim more, but you're definitely not gonna get rim stuffed as
Yeah.
much with a downturn rim. And what the reason we're talking about angles in general is actually relating back to the double E spay that Isaiah did. Because when Isaiah did that double E spay, another pro dunker that at least some of the people that are watching this should know or do know, Jared Roth, basically said, I don't think this is exactly valid because the 9.8 rim that Isaiah did it on had a slight angle to it that was downwards, making it easier for him to put the dunk in. And that's a discussion that I feel like I don't know if we should have, but it was, the way I saw it was that while it was downward turned, it was so freaking slight. It doesn't, I don't know.
It's that's hard to say because I didn't really know about that. But that's like a it's like a minutia of a difference that I don't really know how much that matters or not. So I definitely couldn't form a valid opinion on that. But like I don't think.
But if you've watched this far, please like and comment. And if you are gonna comment and you know anything about that 9.8 double E spay that Isaiah did, say if the angle there is substantial enough to stay to even question the validity of it or not, so
Mm,
that we can have a discussion there. Like we'll definitely
yeah,
respond to any comments related to it.
yeah.
I think personally speaking, I'm in agreement I'm agreeing with Juan here that honestly it's so minor that it shouldn't matter too much. But maybe you guys have a different opinion.
And it really depends too, cause did he just kind of see that on video? Because if it's just on video, you really gotta look in person and really kind of get a good look at that, cause that's a hard conclusion to make off of video, whether it does look like it or not. The angle demon exists, man. So you never know. So
I would know.
yeah,
I'm
but
I'm the
yeah,
angle demon of Beyond Bounds.
yeah. But and then the last thing that kind of goes with that as well, with the I don't know if this comes from wear and tear or just kind of how the rims are installed, but the softness and hardness of the rims. First we got the 3-inch difference, then we got the softness and hardness, which actually makes like the few inch difference like very helpful depending on how soft and how hard you are. Sorry, not you, not you. I'm talking about. Okay, my bad. I had the rim. The rim is either gonna be flimsy or it's gonna be stiff. It's either gonna be flimsy or stiff, and depending on if you can jump the same height, like if you jump a certain height and you can dunk on that rim, or if you can like get your hand over that rim, or let's say like you can barely dunk, right? The softness or hardness of that rim is, I'm sorry. The stiffness or the flimsiness of that rim is gonna make a huge difference, because the flimsier it is, it can kind of, it's like shaky. It can go up and down a lot easier. So when you can barely dunk, you have to kind of imagine that you're pushing the ball through the rim, front of the rim. That makes it so much easier because the rim is flimsier. So then you can actually, it'll like come down a bit when you try and push it through. So it's similar to how when you have a more angled down rim, it's easier to flush it in because it kind of opens like a gap for you, right? But in this case, if the rim is like flat, there's no angle to it, you could still get that kind of benefit because of how flimsy it is. But when it's stiff, you don't get that benefit. You have to kind of get that perfect, really like right above, and then the perfect kind of finger curve going, Nah. the curve, the flick, the nice flick in the hole. Uh,
Bro, if Jayden was here, you'd be having a field day with this too.
oh my goodness. Okay. But yeah, and so yeah, that's basically my explanation of it, or how that helps as well. If you have anything to add.
Nah, I mean, I can't add anything. I feel like if I'm gonna try adding stuff, I'm gonna freaking lose it too.
Yeah. So yeah, the flimsiness, the stiffness, the few inches, and the finger flicking adds a lot to if you can make the dunk or not. So yeah, with that all being said, we can end this off here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Like Darshil said earlier in the video, like, comment, subscribe, 5 stars on Spotify. We'll see you guys in the next podcast. Peace out.